Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Certainly, we have revealed the Holy Quran as an Arabic Quran so that you may understand.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته يا محمد.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كيف حالك؟
بخير الحمد لله وأنت؟
أنا بخير والحمد لله حبيبي. So today inshallah you will tell us about the interpretation of the meaning of surat al-Ghashia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, surat al-Ghashia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us three main points, three main elements on this surah. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this surah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to describe in the surah, ya Muhammad.
وجوه يومئذ خاشعة. It's talking about the non-believers and their consequence.
And on the other hand, Allah describes after that, ayah number 8.
وجوه يومئذ ناعمة.
MashaAllah. So, وجوه يومئذ خاشعة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divided in this surah the people on the day of judgment. People, how many groups they will be?
Two groups.
Two groups. The first group, Allah described, and each group will have a different faces, right?
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the surah describing the face of the unbeliever. How their face will be on the day of judgment. وجوه يومئذ خاشعة. What does it mean?
It means that the face will look humble and a downright disgrace.
Yeah, and before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will count them for everything that they did in this worldly life. And their punishment, how the punishment will be for those people, for unbeliever people?
تصلى نارا حامية. They'll
Perfect.
go to fire.
Okay, perfect. On the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the surah how the face of the believer people will be on the day of resurrection. In ayah number 8, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ. What does it mean?
It means the face of the believers will be peaceful and calm and quiet.
Why? Because they will have the reward of all the great deeds that they did in this worldly life. So they are glad and they are happy and they have happy faces and they have peaceful faces, calm faces, because they will get their reward as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the surah. What about the reward that Allah mentioned here?
في جنة عالية.
MashaAllah. What does it mean?
It means that the people of Amina will go to heaven.
Heaven. And Aliyah means high gardens, high heavens. Okay, what about the second scene that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the surah Muhammad, starting with ayah number 17?
أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت. It's talking about how Allah made the camels and how if they ever regard how the camels were made, since they can survive for days without water.
So after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions and describes the different faces of people on the day of resurrection, whether the believer people or unbeliever people and their punishment or reward, Allah started to say that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the camel, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that to let people mediate and think and regard how the camel are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a great creatures. Okay, وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ. What does it mean as-sama?
Sky.
The sky. Okay, وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ. What does it mean?
If they ever wonder how Allah raised the sky.
Okay. وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ.
How Allah made the mountains.
So what is the meaning of al-jibal?
set up, how Allah made the mountains set up and spread and set up.
So what does al-jibal means?
Mountain.
And al-ibl?
Ibil, camel.
And as-sama?
Sky.
وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت. What is al-ard?
Ard means ground.
The earth. Excellent.
And it's talking about how you spread it around.
Fascinating. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning of the surah describes the two different faces. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us about his abilities of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala able to create a different thing. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing the Prophet Muhammad at the last part of the surah. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet Muhammad in the last part of this surah, what he says and what does it mean, Ya Muhammad?
He says, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ. And it's talking about
what does they say in Arabic? What is that sign?
Mad.
So you need to just extend it for harakat, Ya Muhammad, okay? Can you recite again and tell us what does it mean?
فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ.
Excellent.
It means you're only meant to remind the people of Allah.
لست عليهم بمسيطر. Right? What does it mean?
Yeah. It means you're not the controller of anybody.
ما شاء الله تبارك الرحمن يا محمد حفظكم الرحمن وجعلكم من الحافظين ونفع بكم الإسلام والمسلمين آمين. And let's move to the Arabic يا محمد. ما شاء الله تبارك الرحمن. Okay, inshallah next time ya Muhammad.
The highest academic degrees from Al-Azhar University. Course prices are discounted. Our goal is for others to learn. Don't worry.
Rihlatul Quran Academy is a journey that takes Muslims all over the world to learn Arabic, recite the Holy Quran, and understand Islam. Would you like to learn Arabic or teach your kids and family the Arabic and Quran? Join us.